This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone, and despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, you can get a very professional vocal sound. All right, so what we're going to do in this video is produce the Audio-Technica AT2020 to get that voiceover sound for a YouTube video or even a podcast or something like that. So we're going to use Nectar 3, by the way, but you can use any combination of a gate, de-esser, EQ, and a compressor or two. You know, if you want to use individual plugins, that's fine. I just like Nectar 3 because everything's in one interface. All right, so start off with that bypassed. So we just have the track. So of course we have our track that's well recorded. It was recorded in a semi-quiet room, and the distance from the microphone was about 4 to 5 inches. Okay, so this is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium. So it's already pretty good. If you have headphones on, you're going to hear this because there was a computer running while I was recording this. AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser. You hear that in the background? You may not. So what we're going to do is first, now this is optional, okay? But we're going to remove that, and I'm going to use iZotope voice denoise. I'm going to use the audio suite version. We could use the real-time version. I just like the audio suite version because I can actually render it to the track. Again, you can use something from Waves. I have a few of those plugins as well, and they work just as well. But for this, let's go ahead and this is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser. So, you know, I barely tweaked anything here. That's one of the cool things about RX voice denoise is usually just this default setting just works to pull out all of that background noise. So if I bypass it, listen. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser turn it on microphone, and despite its $99 price tag, right? Perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and render that just to get rid of all that background noise. There we go. All right. Then what I'm gonna do is we have a pretty good level here. If you look at it here, medium diaphragm condenser microphone, and despite its $99 price, so we already have a good level, but I'm going to pull this up just a bit more. We don't need to go crazy here, just about 1.7 dB. All right, so again, we just pulled it up a little bit. This is the Audio-Technica. Very good. So let's get on to our plugin. Again, we're going to use Nectar 3, and I like Nectar 3 again because I have all of my tools in one interface, and of course I have presets, so I can have a preset for each microphone that I use, pull it up, and I'm not going through a bunch of, you know, individual plugins here trying to load up a bunch of stuff. All right, so first thing here, let's turn off these other components here. Very good. Just start with our gate. Now I do have the ALM on, which is the automatic level mode, which is pretty cool. If you know anything about Waves Vocal Writer, this works sort of the same way in that it pulls up in this case, our dialogue track here up to the point that I want, right? It's going to pull it up automatically for me, which is pretty cool. So let's go and play back here. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. That's pretty good there. And despite its $99 price tag. And then what we want to do, and you may not want to do this, but I want to set up a gate. Now on this track, we don't have like a bunch of long pauses or anything where we would want to really pull that level down, but I'll have a gate nonetheless. And what a gate is going to do, it's just going to shut down the audio or reduce the audio in these places of silence there. So we set our level here, our threshold, when it opens, when it closes, and of course the ratio and stuff like that. So check that out first. This is the Audio-Technica AT. You see how the level comes down. Medium diaphragm condenser microphone. You don't want to pull up too high. Price tag with a few tools like EQ and compression, you can get a very professional vocal sound. So that's pretty good there. My ratio is, you know, medium high. I'm not attacking it too quick, and I'm holding the level there for a while. The release is sort of slow. So as you can see here, denser microphone, denser microphone, and how that level goes down when it reaches this silent part, or this sort of silent part. It just pulls that level down a little bit more. Over to the de-esser, again, built in to Nectar 3, which is pretty cool. Go ahead and turn it on. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020. All you do is medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, so right there's a lot of S's there. And despite its right here. So our de-esser is, of course, let's just listen to just the S's there. Right, that's the sound that we're pulling out with our de-esser. So different plugins might work a little bit differently, but just going to choose the range, which, you know, around 2.8 is fine. Adjust my threshold. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few, and despite its $99 price tag, very good, turn it off. And despite its $99 price tag, hear those S's? And despite its $99 price tag, much better. All right, on to our EQ. Let's turn that on. And the cool thing, one of the cool things about the EQ in Nectar 3 here is you have a lot of options. You have, you know, you want to place a node, just place a node there, turn the node on or off, solo, just that node, change all of our shapes here. We can even do things like dynamic EQ all within this here, which is pretty cool. So I already have my curve set up here, but let me go ahead and show you why I have it set the way I have it. So first we'll go ahead and play back. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020. Bypass the EQ. Medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, so I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. I'm not doing a ton to it. And this is going to be different for you too, by the way, because it matters, you know, your voice, the tone of your voice, the room that you're in while you're recording, all that stuff goes into exactly the frequencies that you're going to have to manipulate. We'll start at the bottom here. So I have a high pass, which is going to cut out the lows. This is the Audio-Technica. All right, pull it way up here. 2020. And I usually set that at least at around, you know, 50 or so, just to keep those really, really low ranges from really coming through. If somebody happens to have like a sub system and I pull this way down, this is the Audio-Technica. It's going to be really boomy, right? I'm just going to cut some of that off. You could take this all the way up to around 100, you know, 70 to 100. Just play around with that to see what sounds good for you. We'll put this on around 58 Hertz. Then you might or might not want to do this, and I pull a little bit more of around 150 in, okay, just a bit more, just to give it more more width and more girth. This is the audio solo it. So not pulling in a lot, just a bit. $99 price tag with a few. All right. Now through these, you can see I'm really cutting, and I like to cut with my EQ. More than really pull stuff up. I'd rather pull stuff down and let everything else sort of shine through automatically that way. You know, once you clear something out of the way, then you're actually going to hear the frequencies that you want to hear. So what I've done here, solo just that band, you can hear this. And by the way, if you don't know how to EQ properly, one of the best ways to find the frequencies that you want to find is sometimes referred to as the boost and twist, okay? But basically you just boost a sort of, you know, sort of a tight bell here. You could go wide, but we want something sort of tight here. Okay. Then play back your media. This is the Audio-Technica. Just sweep around. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. So it's getting really boxy around 250 to 270. So I'm going to pull just a bit of that out. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020. Medium diaphragm condenser micro. I don't want to pull too much or it loses its weight. So just a bit right there. Then we're doing essentially the same thing up here. This is the Audio-Technica AT. Hear that? I don't like that boxiness. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, same thing right here. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, there we go, nice and smooth now. Now for this node right here, this is the Audio-Technica AT. It can get kind of annoying sometimes. So actually what I'm going to do here is I could make this dynamic if I wanted to. So it just reduces from time to time there, right? The gain there. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020. So this way it will only pull it down whenever that frequency comes up. There's other things you can do with Nectar 3, by the way, but This is not necessarily about Nectar, it's about the AT2020. So let's solo this note again. Right, we're just pulling that down whenever it gets a little bit too loud. If it's not too loud, it won't get pulled down. That's the cool thing about dynamic EQ. Now up here I am boosting. I don't boost a lot, just a bit. And the reason I'm boosting is to bring some of that sparkle and presence into the voice. So if I solo that band. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, just a bit. Same thing up here. Now I'm using a analog high shelf in this case, but of course I can choose, you know, sometimes you might want to choose a low pass and actually just cut this off at a certain range, but in our case, we don't need to. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And its $99 price tag, what I'm going to do is just pull up a bit on this high shelf here, just to pull in some more of that sparkle, diaphragm, and presence. Widen it out a bit. And again, just a bit, just 0.6 dB. Over here is just 0.9 dBs that we're pulling in for the top end. Most of the stuff we're doing is cutting. Okay, so EQ is pretty much done. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99, so it cuts through better there, just sounds better overall. Onto the compressor and what the compressor is going to do for us. If you look at the waveform, you can see our peaks way up here, and then all this content that doesn't peak nearly as high. What a compressor is going to do is put a cap on this and sort of pull this down and let the rest of this come up. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, you can see on the trace here how it's pulling down these peaks is what that's doing. I'm using a digital model for our first compressor just because digital is very clean and clear. My ratio isn't very high, only 4 to 1. Attack is kind of slow, 5 milliseconds. I don't want it to really grab on real quick. And the release is also kind of slow. I'm actually going to pull that down a bit because I want it to hold on for a while. And then we just use our makeup gain. Since we're reducing things with our ratio here and our threshold, we're going to make up that sound, that level with this here. Again, different compressors are different how they work and the controls you have, but it's all essentially the same thing. So I don't want to squash this, by the way, because I want to leave some dynamic so it actually sounds like a human voice. If you end up squashing things too much, it's not going to sound very natural. So I want to leave some dynamics in that. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020
I could squash it.
medium diaphragm condenser microphone. That does not sound good at all, does it? Let's leave some dynamics in that. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, you can get a very professional vocal sound. All right, now there's a few breaths in there that our gate isn't getting. That's okay, I don't really mind them. If if they bother you, you can go in there and actually just delete those out, cut those out. Or of course, there's other things we could use. We could use deep breath for that as well. You could pull the ratio or the attack a little bit faster. All right. So compressor 1 is set. It's not too low. We're just grabbing those peaks and evening everything out. Microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, yeah, that's much better. Now, this is optional, of course. You can do it all with one compressor. I'm going to use 2 compressors. And with this compressor here, I'm going to level things out just a little bit more and give it a bit of character since I'm using a vintage model, which is going to give it some warmth and a bit of girth. All right. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, you can get a very professional vocal sound. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, you can get a very professional vocal sound. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like, I guess we got it there. So again, the idea behind this second compressor is just to level it out a bit more. As you can tell, I'm really just grabbing those peaks that are still getting through. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. Turn it off. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, you can get a very professional vocal sound. All right, so much better if I bypass it. Of course, we still have that denoising rendered into the file. So this is the Audio-Technica AT2020. All right, sounds pretty good. You know, it's a good microphone overall, but with a little bit of, you know, EQ, compression, gate, de-esser, things like that, make it sound even better. And by the way, I do have a limiter on here. Now this limiter works a little bit differently than some others in that I just set the ceiling right here. And if I really want to push this limiter, I'd have to drive my compressor into it. So example of that would be, this is the Audio-Technica AT2020 medium diaphragm condenser microphone. So I wouldn't, despite its I wouldn't want to limit that much, obviously, because it does not sound natural. So that's why I'm not even driving these compressors, the outputs, that hard, because I want this to sound natural still. Because it can get sort of grating on your listener if you have everything just pinged to like minus 0.1 or something on your scale. So leave yourself a little bit of headroom here just to make sure you don't peak up above it. Again, other limiters work differently. You know, whenever you pull one side down, your threshold down or whatever, then the other side goes up. You know, take it easy on that and don't try to squash everything. All right. But that's basically all there is to it. You get a pretty good sound overall. Again, I'll bypass one more time here. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020. Sounds good. Now I'll turn it on. This is the Audio-Technica AT2020. Do a little more gain here. Diaphragm condenser microphone. A little more gain here. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, bypass microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, so it sounds good and natural there, but much more produced and better overall here. Condenser microphone. And despite its $99 price tag, with a few tools like EQ and compression, you can get a very professional vocal sound. All right, so this is how I would produce the Audio-Technica AT2020, and really, honestly, pretty much any microphone. It's all basically the same thing. You know, you just, you know, the nodes you're going to use, the actual frequencies are going to depend on the exact microphone. But that's how you would produce the Audio-Technica AT2020 to get that podcast sound or that sound for your YouTube video.